Hey guys, so we're going to look at a pop art kind of symbol where we pick something very simple in terms of a shape. You can see here I did it with a shamrock in honor of St. Patrick's Day. And you can see that there's lots of different ways of approaching this, but basically we're going to focus on repetition and color and contrast. So the contrast of the black and white against the color. You see how that creates that vibration, kind of like when we did our vibrating line at the beginning of the year. And you may have seen last year on the bulletin board, you saw probably the names that people did. They use their name as that centerpiece. But keep your symbols pretty simple. So you'll see that you can do a heart, any number of things. My mind is drawing a blank, but I tried it with those. I tried it with a musical note. You could try it with a heart. You could even keep it really very simple. And let's say I made sort of a flower, organic, not quite sure shape like that. The idea would be to do these parallel lines running around the outside, not going too fast. And you could do it where the contrast is in the black and white repetition, like you saw there with the shamrock. You could do it with color. You could do the contrast where the color's in the inside and the contrast is in the outside. So let's say I chose a rainbow of colors here and just kept repeating this black and white sort of background with the black line against the white background. The repetition is really going to add to the final look of the piece. It's going to create this dynamic sort of look like it moves almost. There's energy and action in there. And so I could keep going. And again, you can see I'm not being too worried about perfection, but you do want to keep as parallel as possible to create that flow for the viewer's eyes, for your eyes. Just take your time. Don't be in a rush. You see, the more you get in a rush, the easier it is to lose that sort of feeling of repetition. So if I were doing that, you saw here, I made the center solid. You could do both, something different. I could have done patterns in here. Here I did it solid black. And then I just kept tracing around it with a color. And I didn't leave any space between it so that they would blend together. But you could try something different where you left a little white space between it. See how that comes out. You could do the color in the center. Here I just added this because I didn't like the way my middle came out. But you see how I sort of keep going until it goes right off the page. I don't stop just because it no longer fits. I keep going right off the page. It's almost like a ripple effect. Here with this one, you're going to see that I did a combination of things. I did that repetition of black and white. I did the repetition of a color theme. My color theme was green. I added some shadowing in here. I added some Zentangles here. And I just kind of repeated the colors. I had started with black and white and then changed it up. Feel free to modify it any way you want. If you were doing it in color, you would go around the edges like this. So assuming I'm going to do that in some sort of black and white pattern. Haven't decided yet. It's not set in stone. I like to just turn my paper as opposed to trying to turn my arm. I don't know if it's a lefty thing, but I notice that when I'm trying to use it on the cone side, I have to do a lot of paper turning. But you'll notice that if you keep it on its side, the job will go a lot quicker. And you don't need to draw those black lines first if you're doing color. You can see that here, there was no black line drawing. I just kept going with color upon color. So I'm going to just show you one round here, like this. So we're going to just call it like a pop art symbol. So I could keep going with color there, or as I said, you don't necessarily need to have that black outline. Maybe I would do something like this, all the way around. And again, feel free to take some artistic liberty, license, and change up your approach. The idea will be that there's a symbol, that it's the centerpiece in some way. I mean, you certainly can put it off on the angles. It doesn't need to be in the center. But that it's sort of just not a lot of distraction in the background. I didn't make more than one. I didn't add a background to it. It's the symbol that's really just the star of the piece. Oh, a star would have been a nice symbol too. And so the next color would just be layered basically right on top of it. Or I shouldn't say right on top of it, next to it, although you could definitely go right on top of it. I'm getting as close as I can. I can always go back and touch up if I leave any white spaces. I kind of think it helps to leave no white spaces there between them, but maybe there's a reason you like it, and you'll see. So around I go, and you see when I don't turn my paper, I start to make my lines a little wonky. That's an official art term, wonky. And so around, and so now I'm just gonna, I would just keep going right till I went off the edge of the paper with all the different colors. But now if I were doing something, if I do all color here, all color out here, it's not gonna have much contrast, so there's no real sort of push, pull, yin yang. It's sort of like it's gonna be a little bit flatter looking. I want that contrast to show. So I'm going to probably choose something in here of a black and white pattern. Maybe it would be very simple. Maybe I would just make some concentric circles for the center in honor of Vasily Kandinsky. And then maybe here I would just kind of fill the space like that. Kept it very simple. I don't want it to be too distracting a pattern. So you can see that I'm gonna just keep it pretty simple. Does that mean I could not make a decision to color this? I certainly could, but I probably, if I were thinking about color and I want to keep it not so camouflage looking and flat, I would definitely pick a contrast with the background colors. So if I chose warm colors in here, cool colors out here, that would be excellent contrast. Light in the center, dark on the outside, or vice versa, that would be excellent contrast. I could also take some time to do some shadowing. Well, let me just finish the last one. With pencil, if I wanted to, keep with the black and white theme, and then take my pencil and do some shading around the edges. So you go along the border. If you stick to the border and do a little smearing, you can get a little contrast like I did here with the shamrock, okay? So this is the idea, that contrast, so many different options for how you choose to do it. It's really pretty simple. It's nice and meditative because there's this repetition, and that repetition can be very relaxing, and a lot of artistic choices to make in the mix, okay? Have fun with that.